Wes Watson has been accused of scamming and assaulting his fans while driving around in stolen cars and living in rented mansions. But that's not even the dumbest part. Right now, he's going viral for threatening UFC fighters and then ducking their fight offers.
Don't encourage anyone to run up to these pro fighters. Pro fighters are okay? They're only good in the ring.
There have been plenty of alpha male finance bros to come into the limelight, but I don't think I've seen any of them come as close to being a lolcow as Wes Watson is. This juiced up dummy went from making millions of dollars to facing over 20 years in jail, all because of his own ego and retardation. Wes Watson was born November 19th, 1983 in San Diego, California, and according to him, he was committing crimes ever since he was 11 years old. He even claims that he was making hundreds of thousands of dollars selling drugs in high school, to the point where he had a brand new Z71 at 16 and his own house at 18.
Like at 11, I just started hustling. By the time I was 18, by the time I was 16, I went and bought a truck at like a lifted Z71 cash, like 50 grand. I had hundreds of thousands of dollars at 15, 16. And then like 18, I already have my own spot, like fast pad in Encinitas, a condo downtown San Diego. And then, you know, I'm pushing weight heavy. You know, I got a Range Rover. That's like supercharged range at that time that was sick.
But based on the fact that Wes claims he was able to wave a gun in other students' faces without any repercussions, I'm a little suspect as to how true these claims are. If Wes was born in 1983, that means he was probably a freshman in high school around 1998 to 1999, so he would have graduated in the early 2000s. The infamous Columbine shooting happened in April of 99, so Wes is really claiming that he was able to whip out a gun at school when Columbine was still a fresh incident and nobody called the police. Okay, big guy.
People can try to come up to my window and I'm rolling blunts in the parking lot. They knock on my window, I just point the strap at them. Off my window. You know?
At high school?
In high school, yeah.
And nobody called the cops on you?
No, this is before people even did all that. Like, this is before cell phones, dog. Like, this is like the first flip phones. This is pagers, bro.
Right.
Before we move on from Wes's high school life, I want to take a look at a time capsule that I'm not sure Wes even realizes is a thing. In this video, you'll see the gun and drug slinging Wes Watson absolutely shred on his snowboard. Most of the drug dealers I've known, except for one, weren't heading up to the mountain on Saturday to snowboard. They were selling drugs. On top of the comments about pulling guns out at school instilling some doubt in me, the fact that Wes was initially arrested back in 2010 for assaulting and robbing a weed dealer for merely £1 makes me think he's been lying about the true size of his drug operation. I don't know about you guys, but me personally, I'd never even dream about robbing someone for £1 when I was selling hundreds of pounds a month. Something pretty interesting about his initial case is the fact that they say he basically jumped the grass dealer with his friend, which is great foreshadowing for the assault charge he faces today. After Wes and his friend got done beating and robbing this dude, they were caught and Wes was sentenced to 9 years in prison. Surprisingly, the inconsistencies with Wes's backstory are almost immediately evident. He first started posting on social media through his YouTube channel back in July of 2019, about 2 years after he got out of prison, and was claiming that he served 10 years in a California prison, which we know isn't true. The dude wasn't even sentenced to 10 years. On top of that, he had been using Instagram while he was still in prison, long before he even made a YouTube. And of course, he had to make a first day out post. The only reason I even bring it up is because he contradicts himself heavily when it comes to his time served, simply by forgetting he has a digital footprint. Even though the original Wes Watson Instagram has been deleted, we can see in a More Plates, More Dates video from 4 years ago that Wes was posting on Instagram from his kitchen as early as December of 2017, which directly proves his claim of serving 10 years wrong. It was more like 7 to 7.5 years, but I understand why he lied about it. It was a business decision. His whole shtick was that he would tell these in-depth prison stories about his time in the pen while claiming to be a quote shot caller. And honestly, people were loving it. In his first 5 videos alone, he amassed over 5 million views. Because of the success he found through YouTube, Wes landed a sponsorship deal with Blackstone Labs and was basically just making money from YouTube ad revenue and affiliate marketing. After going through his old content, I'm really not sure why Wes ever decided to go from a YouTuber to a Tai Lopez wannabe. The only realistic reason would be the fact that his views decreased for a while during COVID. He went from getting millions of views a month to barely cracking 100K on the majority of his videos. But instead of finding a way to make his previous content style work, or just focusing on fitness content, Wes decided to go down a path of no return, filled with scams, lies, and even more assault charges. Around December of 2022, Wes officially moved away from talking about prison stories and instead created motivational and degrading alpha male content.
took a long time to find the right property, but we found it. 11 bedrooms, 15 bathrooms in Rancho Santa Fe, California. We're 4 minutes from the beach in San Diego. This property is 9 acres, and it's just the perfect spot to hold the events I'm gonna hold, the mastermind meetings, and bring together the minds that know life is truly limited.
At this point in time, Wes was no longer using his platform for small-time affiliate marketing. Instead, he created his own website and started selling a few different mindset/fitness programs, which are now deleted. But honestly, his life seemed to be going pretty well during this era. He was living by the beach in California, still had a relatively good reputation, and didn't have to scam people for money. But not long after making the switch and becoming a full-time guru, Wes's reputation began cracking, with people claiming to have been scammed by him for thousands, with one news outlet highlighting the fact that not only was the coaching Wes provided underwhelming on most, if not all, occasions, but also letting people know that sometimes Wes flat out failed to provide any service at all. After looking through reviews for Wes's coaching business, I came away with a pretty clear and common scenario. Wes takes your money, pushes back your call sessions for months on end, and then denies your refund when you inevitably get fed up. Let's take a look at a few client confessions and see if you're left with the same overall message. The first testimonial we'll look at is one of the most comprehensive exposés I've seen, and has quite a bit of proof. On April 17th, 2023, a Reddit user going by the Dutch Demon told people his experience working with Wes, and it was awful. Basically, this guy had a mere $3,000 to his name, but was still interested in working with Wes, so he sent him a DM. Wes replied that he could pay $1,500 as a down payment, to which Mr. Demon agreed. Fast forward about 3 months, and Mr. Demon still had not even been on one call with Wes Watson, despite scheduling over 3 different calls. All they had done was get him set up on the app Wes uses to train and communicate with his clients, called Trainerize. After Wes canceled on him again, Demon got to setting up a 4th call, but to nobody's surprise, Wes canceled again, and this is where Mr. Demon decided to request a refund, to which Wes obviously responded with name calling and gaslighting. After realizing Wes was not going to help him, Mr. Demon opened a chargeback with his bank and then was waiting for another month before finally getting his money back. But not because Wes realized he was wrong and that he needed to provide a refund, only because Wes and his team didn't respond to Mr. Demon's bank. Next, we'll take a look at Cole Hewitt, a Wes Watson clone that cannot believe he too was scammed.
Big dog, after finally getting his one-on-one call for his elite business coaching, I could have taken that $3,000, lit it on fire, and it would have provided more value for me.
Unfortunately for us, Cole didn't provide any other evidence aside from his raised voice, so take this one with a grain of salt. But it's also not totally his fault, as you'll see with some of these other testimonials, because apparently Wes often bans people on Trainerize once they request a refund, which deletes the majority of the conversations they had with Wes. Next up, we've got another Reddit user who claims a very similar experience to the one we just went over. This guy found Wes around 2020 when he was still new to social media, and this Redditor, going by the name Dade County_Dolphins, actually was a member in Wes's original programs, as well as the more recent ones. He claims that back in 2020, the programs Wes offered were a mere $300 per month, and actually worked really well, even going as far to say he was able to get in the leanest physique of his life. So naturally, he thought he might as well take it to the next level, and he enrolled in Wes's $3,000 program. But to his surprise, this round of coaching was nothing like what he experienced back in 2020. Instead, he claims Wes ghosted him for weeks on end, just like he did with Mr. Demon. Thankfully, in the end, this guy was also able to get a refund through his bank. But something interesting that he pointed out was that Wes stopped accepting American Express payments shortly after this chargeback, which is just another example of sketchy behavior on Wes's end. The final testimonial I want to focus on is another Redditor sharing their story. This person goes by Carpe Diem 365 and has a very similar experience to the others we've looked at. This guy says he joined back in 2022 and paid $7,500 for 3 months of coaching from Wes. He also says that it all felt very unorganized, and that, like usual, Wes canceled their first call. But he actually had a better start than the others, because unlike them, he was able to get on a few calls with Wes, but they weren't anything special. He describes it as Wes hopping on the phone and whining about his own life for 15 to 20 minutes, and after that he would give some basic life or fitness advice. But after a few mediocre calls, this Redditor finally got to meet the real Wes Watson. He claims that he asked Wes for a more in-depth description of the process behind monetizing his coaching business, to which Wes responded by verbally bitch-slapping him and telling him he didn't want to work together anymore, allegedly going as far as saying, quote, "I will kill you, motherfucker." It doesn't seem like this guy got a refund or even wanted one, but he ends his testimonial off with a great description of Wes's service. His workouts are very cookie cutter and generic. Everyone gets the same program. I told him I injured myself one time and asked how I should change the routine, and he just told me to go see a doc. And for the cherry on top, he claims Wes would later steal his progress photo to use as a review, even though the majority of the gains were made long after he ended his relationship with Wes. I could keep listing these negative testimonials for hours, but surprisingly they don't matter much, because what caused the actual downfall of Wes Watson was nothing other than his own ignorance. Around 1 year ago, in April of 2024, Wes would go onto a live event hosted by Fresh and Fit where he would talk about masculinity while sitting on stage surrounded by other dudes. But instead of simply making a nice impression to further his coaching sales, Wes decided to show the audience his true colors.
Are you proud of who the fuck you are?
Why
Well, look at, are you proud? If you look in the mirror, would you guys say this motherfucker's proud of who the fuck he is? That's a bag of trash, dude. Pull your shirt
Because
off
I've
and
been-
tell me you're proud
Because
of yourself.
I've been to fucking prison?
Jesus Christ,
Because
look
I've been
at
to
you,
prison?
bro. You got 10-inch arms and men don't have tits.
No, they go to prison where they get
Yeah,
where they get
do.
raped up the ass.
Never been to prison. Look,
That's
he's talking
what
about shit you
happens.
don't know.
They go to prison where they get
let's
raped.
do
Now you
this.
get your beat in
Hold
front
on.
of
You think that
everybody.
that's better?
Guys,
You think that that's better?
Let's let him give his definition of success, and then
Having and 10-inch arms is what a man is, you guys.
let's let him
Please
get his,
don't listen to that.
Wes, let's let him get his.
For some context, that guy he was berating is also an influencer and is pretty well liked across social media, so this little fit Wes threw was way worse than it seemed. Not only did the other guy's fans immediately dislike Wes, but really anyone with an ounce of common sense saw clear as day that Wes Watson is nothing more than a 9th grade bully with rented cars and houses. Also, just as a side note, I cannot believe this would try and knock someone else while wearing those stupid skinny jeans. He's literally bursting out the seams of his jeans while telling someone else they look dumb. You really can't make this shit up. But as I was saying, after this incident, Wes became widely disliked by really everyone, and it led to the entire internet just collectively on him. On top of that, videos of Wes Watson berating his paying clients also began leaking, which led to even more people jumping in to shit on Wes.
Yeah, I'm approaching a number that I feel like
You're not! You don't even have any business! Shut up!
What's up, Wes? Just wanted to hop on here real quick and thank you for everything. I know you don't got a lot of time, but
If you're not asking a question, I'm gonna fucking kill you. If you're not asking a question, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I told you I was on motherfucking time. Are you gonna ask a question or are you just saying thank you? Because you can fucking text me that motherfucker. I don't take it kindly. I don't give a
You know, this is what I told him. If you have a big following, bro, do something good with it. He's like, so you're going to sign up for my program? I was like, well, you know, I don't really got the bread. He's like, what are you, a faggot or something? Don't fucking message me or you're going to sign up for my program.
So it was, everything has calories, you idiot. There's calories in protein. What are you talking about? Okay. Sir, are you brain dead? Dude, don't call it fasting then. That's the deal. It's not called fasting, you idiot. I'm saying fast. And why don't you just be Pablo? Your fucking ass, sit your ass down, dude. You guys, listen. You need to be smarter with your goddamn questions. You're wasting.
Wes, I know you. I know. I heard you say that before to do some research, and I was doing research, you know, and it was just like it basically amounted to like amino acid pills.
When I was 13, I literally understood the question you're asking. At 13, bro.
And that brought Wes to another pivotal moment for his career, but this was arguably worse than the Fresh and Fit incident. What I'm referring to is when Penguin Zero made a video just tearing Wes apart. This actually wasn't Penguin's first video on Wes either, but it may be the most destructive. This video literally gave birth to the new gadoushing trend in the Wes Watson verse.
I've made a video on Wes Watson in the past, like 6 months ago, where he got absolutely embarrassed on this podcast panel where he looked like the most insecure little bitch of all time. And since then, he's only continued to self-sabotage, melt down, and just devolve into this slug person.
And it wasn't just Penguin's video that caused even more hate to go Wes's way. It was also Wes's childlike response. This dumbass actually thinks he's better off than Penguins because of some steroid-infused gorilla physique.
Guys, I missed it. I don't know when this happened, but I missed when this started taking place. Since when did these video game playing, comic book collecting, action figure shelf having, long-haired, 45-year-old virgins start to speak down on studs who are jacked and roll motherfucking hypercars around Miami and live in mansions. I'm not understanding when this took place. Do they just have such a group where they're the king of the nerds and all their nerds rally and they're like, hey man, it's so not cool to be jacked. Dope fucking action figure case, John. Hey, how's your comic book collection going? You sure killed it at that Call of Duty competition. What the fuck? We live in Backwardsville. Whoa, dude, what the fuck?
Aside from being gadooshed by basically everyone with a Wi-Fi connection, Wes would have his words put to the test when a viewer pulled up to the gym he works out at, which led to Wes destroying his life and career all on his own. But before we look at this footage, I want to give a huge shout out to John Bravo Films for following up on this situation so in depth. Definitely check out his videos on Wes if you haven't seen them yet. I also want to give you a little bit of a backstory to this altercation. Allegedly, it all started over Instagram DMs, and basically consisted of this guy and Wes setting up a fight against each other.
This little loves blocking people after he sends them a challenge. Big Monster sends him a DM, and it says, yo, you want to fight? Why don't you pick on someone your own size like me? Wes goes, roll through, stop talking. Monster says time and place. Wes says 8 a.m. weekdays and weekends at the gym. Weirdos writing people they don't even know shit like this broke-ass motherfucker.
Honestly, there's nothing else I can really say that John didn't already say. Wes has no claim to self-defense now that these messages are out there, and once you see the actual fight footage, you'll realize just how legally f***ed Wes Watson is. Not only did he set up this fight, but Wes and his butt buddies literally jumped this guy while using fucking gym equipment as weaponry.
And then we have another one of the goons throwing a kick to his face and then holding him down with his other hand. And then the biggest pussy of them all, this fat pig, he throws a kick to make it look like he did something, the piece of shit.
Unfortunately, I can't show all the footage because it's almost 10 minutes long, but if you want to see it in full, check out John Bravo's channel. I'll have it linked in the description below. After the assault initially took place, Wes wasn't put in cuffs or in any trouble, but a few months later in February of this year, Wes was arrested on felony battery charges stemming from the gym incident. Because of that and John Bravo's never-ending grind to expose Wes, we can watch Wes get shushed and bitched by someone with actual power.
If he comes to your gym, call the police. Don't engage, because if you get arrested for anything else, you'll be locked up in jail until you're trialed.
Okay, I just want to, just real quick.
Mr. Watson, please don't make any statements. You and I can talk about it. Thank you, sir.
Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. I'll make sure your bond is arranged. Thank you, Your Honor.
There's really no significance to that clip. I just thought it was pretty satisfying to see this 230-pound meatball get shushed by a much smaller woman. Since this hearing, Wes was granted bail and has been back out on the streets of Miami. But it wasn't long before another video went viral painting Wes in the shit light he deserves.
What's up, bro? How you doing?
The issue we're having right now is that this car is not even registered. Yeah. All right, you gave me it doesn't come back registered. You gave me a card from North Carolina, and then the vehicle originally came from Maryland, and it only came up in Maryland with no information belonging to you or anyone.
So when I paid it off, they should have registered it?
I'm assuming, yeah, they should have, but ultimately, it lies on your hands that you're driving the vehicle. Yeah, all right?
Right now.
As you just saw, Wes was pulled over with fake plates, no insurance, and a car with an irrelevant VIN number. Once again, I don't think this clip is really anything that will send Wes to prison, but it allowed us to witness another pure moment of baby rage from this retard.
The guy don't give a fuck about that. Do you care about an Ohio plate? Look at talk to him.
We're in Florida.
He said we're in Florida. I don't care about an Ohio plate. It sounds like a bunch. Yeah, but you could drive an Ohio car in Florida.
You reside here. I could have put more charges. I only gave you one.
Dude, he's telling me he's giving you charges.
It's a residential violation.
Fuck you, bitch. I'm out.
It's a residential.
I gotta go, bro.
All right, bro.
But just because the cars won't send him to prison doesn't mean his other f***ups won't. In fact, Wes was actually seen on Lil Pump's stream talking about how he could be facing anywhere from 3 to 5 years in prison for the ordeal.
Now they dropped my case from like 15 years on like 2 felonies to like 3 years, 3 to 5. Yeah, but I'm gonna keep trying to beat it, you know. Yeah.
The bullshit where the guy wrote.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, that show's such bullshit, man.
I could beat it, but I mean,
It's just annoying.
they want to play games and they want to drain a couple hundred bands from you.
What really confuses me about Wes's awareness surrounding his case is the fact that he literally ignored all notices about the lawsuit his victim filed. He went an entire month without responding to court summons. So the $1 million lawsuit the guy from the gym filed was given a default judgment. And according to John Bravo and Google, that means Wes will have to pay whatever judgment is made.
Defendant has not filed any paper in this action, and the deadline for defendant Wesley Watson to respond has passed. Plaintiff has included a form for clerk's default to this motion. Wherefore, plaintiff respectfully moves the entry of the clerk's default against defendant Wesley Watson.
Even though he's being sued for potential millions and being prosecuted for another felony assault, Wes decided it was a good idea to start shit with UFC fighters.
Pro fighters are pussies, okay? They're only good in the ring. People I know will not accept a loss, okay? If a pro fighter did his jujitsu on him, then the guy's gonna come back and duct tape his family. You guys need to wake up. These are very big time squares. Pro fighters are the epitome of squares. They're like, come in the ring and I'll fight you. You guys live in a fantasy world where pro fighters aren't the biggest squares on the planet. UFC fighting is gay. Like all that shit, like MMA fighting and all that shit is for people who never really were in fights.
After this rant where Wes quite literally says that MMA and UFC fighters don't know how to actually fight, he went and doubled down on that statement.
Every single person who does MMA or anything like that was always a square motherfucker. They would always say, let's go in the ring. Let's go in the ring. They've never actually done anything like that was not sanctioned or by the Matrix. There's rules. Like people like me don't live that way.
Then less than 24 hours later, the UFC fighter Kevin Holland slid into Wes's DMs in response to his rant. Of course, Wes responds in his usual manner, puffing out his chest and yapping his sucker about imaginary scenarios. And naturally, Kevin Holland just kind of laughs at Wes. But that seems to have made Wes even more angry, because he then throws out a little racial jab to Kevin about a potential KFC gift card. But after the dust settled, Wes would block Kevin like he does with everyone else that exposes his and you already know he dodged the bar fight offer Kevin threw out, because Wes is nothing more than a scared 200-pound blow-up doll. I'm really not surprised that Wes would say something as delusional as this. Delusion is basically his MO at this point. But no matter how delusional Wes Watson may be, it won't stop reality from moving forward and leaving him broke and behind bars once again. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see my source of the video, check out my Twitter at RedmanSpeaksYT. I'll have all the links posted there. I love you, have a good one, peace.